Are we in focus? I think it was okay.
So how do you want to do this?
I want us to
flow.
Just flow.
Okay.
Relax. Just conversate. Like I know you. Do you remember where we met?
First time. Wasn't it at Wavecrest? Where was it?
It was at Wavecrest.
Yeah.
And then we met in Mcebisi.
Yes. Yeah. And the first time was at the what was it, ECDC thing, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just forgot the year.
I don't know.
I just forgot.
It was probably 3 years ago. Because last year was in Nogs back. Yeah, could have been 20, probably around about 2023.
Yes. Let's get your sound. Yeah.
Okay.
This will help us to make sure that that we are audible. Good day, Voyagers. We are having a special episode of the podcast. This is a tourism podcast. This is Simphiwe Smash Mhlantla, your host with the most. I am with someone that I admire, someone that I respect, someone whose beliefs I hold close and dear to my heart. I am with the one and only Russel Kruger. Russel, welcome on the podcast. How are you?
Simphiwe, I'm good, man. How are you?
Yes, it's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a minute or two. I'm feeling okay. I remember post-COVID, when I first saw you, post-COVID, things were shaky. The economy was up and down, and what was happening with infrastructure in the province, it was also a nightmare, most likely in the area of the Wild Coast, which is where you were heavily having your interest.
Yeah.
So can you give me a brief of how that went down?
Yeah, I think that just getting back to the post-COVID situation, there'd been quite a big struggle for tourism globally to get back on its feet. And that unfortunately hasn't really spilled down to the Wild Coast because governments got behind countries to get their tourism right. So when COVID hit us as a country, we were a little bit hamstrung just before COVID, as you know. The infrastructure issues, the challenges that we have in terms of just for tourists to go to a destination, they need safe passage. They need roads that work. When they get to their destination, they want things to flow. And part of the challenge pre-COVID was getting basics done. So tar roads, you want water, you want electricity, and we as a country have had to start realizing that we're not competing against provinces, we're competing against countries. And what South Africa have done quite well is we've managed to get people to come in to visit and go to a game park. We understand my namesake up in the Kruger National Park.
Yes.
We've done that well. And then we've managed to take people from the game parks down to a place where there's a little mountain called Table Mountain. We've done that pretty well. And Cape Town have done an incredible job to not only maintain but attract tourists. And the problem that we have as a country is we haven't utilized the next step, and that next step is to take people with safe passage from Cape Town to Durban. And we, as the Wild Coast, and as you know, I was the chairman of the Wild Coast Holiday Association for a while, and part of our mission was to create that process. And the challenges that the Wild Coast face, number one, is that safety and security have been an issue. That
hardly
pre-COVID.
Yes. Yes.
So, and it's not necessarily the safety and security on the Wild Coast itself. It's a process. So when something goes wrong on the Wild Coast, we as South Africans are very good at telling negative stories. So somebody gets hijacked or mugged or something, that gets put on social media and it just flows around the world. So that narrative has had to change. And when you start understanding that we've got 230 kilometers of the most pristine coast in the world, from Kamaf to Durban, and yes, without a doubt, there have been one or two incidents. Of course, we understand that. But you go anywhere in the world, there's going to be problems. There's going to be hijackings. There's going to be theft. There's going to be those things that happen. Now, part of the challenge that we had was there was a spate of negative press, negative security-related issues that weren't being resolved. And that was, at the time we were chatting, if you remember.
I remember.
There was a lot of drama. The SAPs got heavily involved, and I was part of a team that rallied to bring more of a presence. And I must say, hats off to SAPs for actually taking action. They came down to the Wild Coast. They've put up satellite stations at various places. Guys have taken action. They've put patrolmen on horseback. There's been a very focused drive. But people will say, is it enough? Well, these are the things that we need to lobby, and that's why you've got this podcast, because we need to talk to SAPs and say, come on, guys. Part of the recovery program as well has been hampered due to, and I'm going to say this as it is, I think this podcast is probably necessary because we need to talk straight. And the problem is we sort of hide around things. So from an intentional perspective, our government need to get behind tourism.
100%.
And properly.
100%.
So what I'm concerned about is the why. Let's talk about the why on the Wild Coast. First of all, it's a hidden gem globally, without a doubt.
Yes.
230 k's of the most pristine coast in the world. It's untouched, it's unspoilt, and it's underdeveloped. So we've got a poverty mindset as a nation, where we put our hands out, and we don't realize the potential of what we have. So we go and waste millions, and I think it's important that we talk these things through on certain aspects that can't take off. So, for example, spending millions to put a mine together in Kamaf, it's crazy. If they took that money and developed pockets of excellence with what we do well, and what we do well is we guide people up the Wild Coast. So small groups, we have the capacity to take small groups with young entrepreneurs trained and able to do the job. But instead of focusing on developing those teams, we focus on some white elephant. And that's something that really makes me crazy. So what we've seen on the Wild Coast is that there's not a collaborative effort between government to sit down with the communities and understand what's required, and that's something that I really find fascinating, because as tourism bodies, we need to understand what's the heartbeat of the Wild Coast, and that's the people.
That's the community.
That's the community.
That's the community, because that also brings me to one of my major challenges in understanding how developments are done in the Eastern Cape. Actually, even in the whole country, you cannot develop tourism, its infrastructure, without involving the community.
100%.
How does that happen? You want to develop an economy, and the key role players in that economy would be the community.
Absolutely.
They are the key role members. They are the ones who will be using those facilities more than tourists. When tourists come, they go, they're ready. For instance, the current issue that has been brewing for years, the safety and security in the Wild Coast. Imagine a case or a scenario where the community was heavily involved. They've been taught and given more information and more knowledge about tourism. They would understand that when tourists come and visit, there's no need to rob them because they are bringing in economy.
I don't know if I agree with you, because there's a problem with that, and I understand where you're coming from, but we need to be real and we need to talk straight. So the problem is that the guys involved in tourism will not rob. The communities that are not being fed cannot stop the robbing from taking place. So there's a whole infrastructure that's upside down. And when you look at the Wild Coast, and I grew up on the Wild Coast, I was born and bred there, I lived there my whole life. And when I see guys my age, I'm 56 years old, and I've got friends that grew up there that haven't got jobs. Their only form of income is fishing, selling a fish, selling a crayfish, and there's nothing else. Now, the problem that we have is that we haven't, as a country, acknowledged the problem. And the problem is, when we go back a little bit, the Wild Coast was part of the former Transkei, and you had a void of leadership men, because the men would go and work on the mines. Secondly, when you've got a fatherless society, there's a problem. And a lot of those children grew up on their own, with moms working in towns and grands looking after them. So that whole infrastructure in terms of basic needs, fathers teaching their children, there's a gap, and we need to fix that gap. And what concerns me is that there are so many opportunities on the Wild Coast, not only to develop tourism, but to develop basic infrastructure that can work. So I'm going to give you an example. We had a community from Ireland that wanted to come down, and they wanted to create farming opportunities where they would provide the training, the necessary skills, the process planning, and money to pay farmers. And the objective was to create 100 farmers, and each one would be given 12,500 rand a month as a stipend to get their businesses running. And when they were running, after 3 years, they would put them on their own, but it would be a 3-year training and mentorship program. Now, it might not sound a lot, but that's 100 farmers on the Wild Coast getting 12,500 rand a month. Do the numbers. That never took off because there was too much interference and red tape from government. Now, to me, that's a sad story. Then when you start looking at the next real issue, you asked a question, a very relevant question. Let's talk about development and investment. Why do people invest? They invest in something that's going to produce a return. So if one would consider investing onto the Wild Coast, I mean, I invested 15 million into the Wild Coast on a property that I leased from the East Cape Development Corporation. And the plan was to develop that and build a 100-unit hotel there. And what I realized was I was wasting my time. I'm dealing with an organization that changes guard every 6 to 8 months. So you go down a road, and then those that are making decisions leave, somebody else comes in. They don't really get going. So part of our plan was to bring foreign investment onto the Wild Coast, because there's a foreign need to uplift our country. I don't know why these guys have got such a wonderful heart for South Africa, but we had foreign investment ready to come, capital to come in. So they had a look at this, and they said, well, what are we going to invest in? They said, we're going to build a 100-bedroom unit here with a conference facility and an eco-village. Great, let's go. Who owns the land? Now the problem starts. So the reason why we've got a problem on the Wild Coast is that you've got Mngazi River Bungalows that has a title deed, and you've got Mbuyeki Resort that has got a title deed. The rest of the hotels on the Wild Coast are part of the old regime, which has a permission to occupy. It's owned by government. They don't even know who owns it. I know exactly who owns it. And the problem is that there's unrealistic expectations on development, because nobody's going to go and develop 100 million rand unit without land ownership. So that's the very first problem. Secondly, you've got to collaborate. When you've got And the Wild Coast, as you know, you got Kocha, Wavecrest, Mazepa, Kobben, Haven, Coffee Bay, Mgazi, and then you go up to the northern Natal, or the Natal area. Now, it's not profitable to run a 30-bedroom hotel, and I'm talking about proper investment, proper systems, proper processes that your tourists expect. And again, I'm going to go back to what I spoke about earlier on. When tourists come into a country, they expect world-class service.
Yes.
They don't want to come and the tap doesn't work. So you turn the tap on, there's no water. Or when you turn the water on, it's brown. So now we're competing. Let's go back to macro. We're competing with Cape Town and Durban and Mpumalanga. So you come to the Wild Coast, it's December, and I've been in this situation, there's no water. So you get hold of the municipality and you say, guys, what's happening? And in my mind, now you can't tell a person, they don't understand that language.
Because they've paid for that service.
They've paid for the service.
They've paid for that service.
And we had to be very resourceful. As South Africans become very resourceful, so we would have to pump out of a river, create our own process, and make water work. Now, we've got the resources. We just don't know how to use them properly. So the maintenance is an issue. And that's something that we need to focus on in terms of maintaining water resources, maintaining our roads. And obviously, it's a custodianship, because it's not about each resort on the Wild Coast. It's about understanding the whole catalyst that makes the thing work. So if I go to the Wild Coast, whether I stay at any hotel and I have a negative experience, whether it be water, safety, security, whatever it might be,
it affects the entire Wild Coast.
The whole Wild Coast. So one incident kills the whole Wild Coast. And on a positive note, I'm quite encouraged to see what the police are doing. What I'm discouraged with is that when you take an organization like the East Cape Development Corporation, I want to use that word, development corporation. So I personally experienced just the lack of intent. So they have properties in Mhlantla that have been taken over by the Mapocha, and they don't deal with it because they're too afraid to deal with them. Now, part of what we need to do as a nation is we need to stand up and say we're saying no to crime, but you can't fight crime when the syndicates are more powerful than the police. So when a police vehicle doesn't work, and these are things that we have had to deal with, you call the police, the vehicle tires punctured, but they don't have resources to buy a new tire. Now, I mean, these are basic things that we had to deal with, and I'm very encouraged to say that it's been an improving situation. But when I take a bus of tourists arriving in our country, and they have to be subjected to dealing with basics, so a toy here for us is nothing.
It's normal.
It's normal. That's no problem.
It's normal.
A tour bus full of Germans seeing tires burn on the side of the road, it's a panic. So now we've had to do that. Then we have a situation where, because of lack of infrastructure, we have the community blocking traffic. So a bus gets stopped with 30 German tourists and they miss their flights. Because andina imanzi. Now that to me is unacceptable. And these are the pressures that the Wild Coast have had to deal with. So when I look at let's look at solutions. What are the solutions? Because I think that's more positive.
That is what is important.
Absolutely. So the solutions are, can we get people up and down the Wild Coast? For me, it's so simple. We can take 1,000 people a day up and down the Wild Coast. How? Little bite chunks. Groups of 30, and you just put them in organized, well-run, well-processed teams. The hotels on the Wild Coast can all take around about 100 people. And there's enough space to move people up and down. So what we need to do is get them to Morgan Bay safely. From there's a process, and it's simple. So we did studies where we showed that we can put 1,000 people up and down the Wild Coast. You know what that does to the economy? You take 1,000 people at an average just for accommodation at 1,500 Rand per person per night. Work it out. 1,000 people. Then on top of it, you have guides that if you take 1,000 people and divide them by the number of guards, how many more jobs are you creating? That's just walking. Then you have another thing that has taken off, that's the new golf, and that's mountain biking. So we've seen and proved that the Wild Coast is a mountain biking destination of note, par excellence, best in the world. So the Imana Wild Ride, it was called, it's now called the Wild Ride, have successfully done, I think last year was the 25th year, and brought millions onto the Wild Coast, millions onto the Wild Coast. But again, these things get hampered because of challenges within the community. So going through one of the years that we had the Wild Run, there was a challenge in the community where they'd been promised computers and a couple of things, and the government guys didn't fulfill, and they didn't deliver. So these guys saw helicopters and people riding bicycles, so they stopped the riders and they said, you're not going past. And we had to get involved. We had to go and sit down with the ECDC. We had to break this understanding because there was a misunderstanding. We fixed the problem, but the truth was we nearly cancelled a ride with 250 people. And that was really challenging.
This is caused by that lack of communication.
It was caused by a computer that wasn't delivered. So the whole community stood up and tried to prevent a race from going through. So my point is that, and when you go back to community, when we talk, communication is an art of passing on information and creating understanding. You can't go to a community and say, "Sizawunika imali,"
or andiyazi,
or how much money is coming. We can't do that. We need to be clear and precise. Listen, we're going to focus. We're bringing up hikers. Only 50 people are going to be given jobs because they need to be qualified, trained, entrepreneurial processing, understanding. I mean, I worked with two teams in Coffee Bay where we created entrepreneurs. Before COVID, these guys were making proper money. And I'm saying guards that were earning around 30,000 Rand a month.
That's
and
good.
That's good money. It's uplifting, and the guys were pumping.
That's good.
That's what it's all about. Now, take 100 guys earning 30 grand a month. From nothing. And let's not benchmark the 30 grand. I'm saying from nothing. At the moment, people are happy to earn $100 a day for getting a fish. Now,
because it makes sense.
It makes sense, but it's not good enough. So for me, why haven't we developed an ecosystem of tourism on the Wild Coast already, where the guards are there, the process is there, but we don't have the intent. So we don't
because
have
also the attractions are there.
Everything's there. But now going back to the attractions, you're talking about an attraction. There's a place called Hole in the Wall.
Hole in the Wall.
The best place in the whole world. I love it.
Yes.
And when I go there as a tourist, I'm now hamstrung because I park my car. When I park my car, somebody's asking me for $100.
Yes.
To walk down the hill and come back. And then there's a guy that wants me to pay him $100 as well. Talking about 20 minutes. So there's a misguided understanding of the tourist capacity with disposable income. Because it's not processed properly and it's not monitored, we have a problem.
Isn't that supposed to be regulated somehow?
I like that supposed to be. By who?
that is where I was going. Isn't that supposed to be regulated?
Absolutely.
Somehow, because I believe the association is also supposed to be pushing that together with also then the provincial government of tourism,
100%.
ECPTA.
Absolutely.
What is the role that they are playing?
They have been playing a role of educating, and they've done a good job. But the good job has been done with the guys that have been trained as guides and that are qualified. The problem is, like you rightfully said early on, community. So everybody wants a part of it.
Yes.
So if you're not paying the guy to look after the car, he's going to break into the car. But again, what are we doing about it? So security costs money. So to have security guards placed at the Hole in the Wall costs money. Now, we're saying, well, let's create a community development fund where people come. If I go to Table Mountain and I want to get on a cable car, I'm going to pay, it's about 600 Rand now.
Yes.
So let's be realistic. What does it cost to go into a nature reserve? If it's 50 Rand, it's 50 Rand. If it's 100 Rand, it's 100 Rand. It doesn't matter. But there's a process. So with that money processed properly, without a bad custodianship, we can pay for a security guard. We can pay people to guard the tourists down there, and you'll change the atmosphere. So we've got to be change makers. We've got to be people that will change the atmosphere, that will come and do it. Now, the reality is, that takes time as well, because you've got to speak to communities, you've got to speak to the chief, and break the nonsense. So for me, the biggest nonsense has been the unexpected expectations of local authorities. So that's another process altogether. You know, the chief wants to create influence, and there's a misunderstanding between government and the local authorities. So that's also a problem. But problems are fixed. Teta tetwana, you talk, you speak. I mean, the relationship that we had with the chief, we made them part of. So when we did a community, or we did any event, we spoke to the chief and we said, listen, we need to talk about this. This is what's going to happen. The realistic expectation is not for you to ikimali. This is for the community to benefit.
It's for the development of the community.
Development of the community. So how do we do it? Together. So that it works. And when we look at the Wild Coast now, and I'm so passionate about this because Zandi, the black mermaid, I don't know if you know. So
I know.
We working with her at the moment. She's buying a boat, and watch this space. So I want to just see her take off. She's got the opportunity, obviously, to work in Cape Town, but to come to the Wild Coast and show people what we can do, because she's good at what she does. She's an example. 20 tour operators doing that.
Exactly.
So
exactly. So, the problems that we have in the country that are concerning tourism, sometimes they will just frustrate you, because as you were saying, these problems, a majority of them, they fall down as a bigger problem. Most likely the communication structure from the National Department of Tourism down to the provinces, to the local municipalities, to the community. If that information is not channeled properly, we have a problem.
We have a problem, and there is a solution. So the solution was, and I was very encouraged that the government put together a task team called Cutting the Red Tape. And part of the process was, when there was a problem, to try and get help. It was a mess. And because of that bureaucratic red tape, and I must be honest, the government have really helped in terms of streamlining that. So from a tourism perspective, SATSA, ECPTA, ECDC have spoken. So there are channels of opportunity to deal with problems. But the bigger problem, like you're saying, the municipal challenges, the infrastructure challenges, the safety challenges, they're quite simple to fix. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to bypass Butterworth. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to bypass Mhlantla. Now, our government can't fix the problem in Mhlantla at the moment because it's big. I'm talking about the safety concerns. And part of the dilemma now has been people feel it's unsafe to drive through Mhlantla. So people are taking the back road. So they're going, they're going Matatiel that way. Which is sad. And I really believe that the Wild Coast is in a development mode, and government is starting to understand that they need to do something about it. I can tell you right now, the first thing is they need to get rid of the ownership of the land and those properties. My suggestion to government was that you take those properties and let them be sold. Now, you would get a consortium that would come in, and let's be true to what the government and our country is saying. If it needs to be a level 1B entity, make it one, for goodness sake, so that it's proper, that there's no nonsense. If there needs to be a community involvement process with those hotels, make it clear and precise that there's no misunderstandings in terms of how the community is going to benefit from it. Look at Mgazi River Bungalows. They've done it properly. The community eats out of that hotel. They were employing nearly 200 staff at one stage. Now, when you start looking at that and you understand the impact of community development and just livelihoods, it's real, man. Now, to mess around with 30 bedrooms, you're wasting your time. When you've got a hotel that's fully functional, I want you to change the paradigm. Let's assume there were 10 hotels on the Wild Coast that all had 100 rooms that will accommodate 300 to 400 people. It changes the narrative, because from there comes a whole lot of spin-offs. From an ecotourism perspective, you start seeing other opportunities where people can now create bigger events, create more opportunities, and then you can start seeing local crop. Where do we have opportunities? There's crafts. Now you've got ladies, the beadwork on the Wild Coast is second to none in the world.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. So those old Makeshlas that are sitting over there that are doing beadwork, they're getting ripped off. Well, they've got no food. When you're hungry, you don't go to bed at night sleeping well. And purpose, there needs to be a joint purpose, a collaborative effort where everybody's working together with the same aim. Part of what we were doing was developing homestays, where we were going into the communities and we were teaching them what a 4-star experience looks like. Now you can take a hut and leave it as a hut, but put a proper bed with linen in it. Make sure that the person can book through booking.com or whatever entity that they need to. Make sure that they can pay you. Make sure that they understand what the food is going to look like. And there's a process in terms of teaching and mentoring that everything is 100%. I would rather go and stay in the lullies and experience what it's all about with a proper process than go and stay in a 5-star hotel, because that's what we have and that's the beauty. But we need to be collaborative.
That brings me to my next question. How important is grading in establishments? How important is grading? Does it still carry the same value?
Yeah, I'm a firm advocate of value systems and just getting. Sorry, I've just got somebody trying to phone me. I'll do my phone off here. Just getting clarity, because you know, in our organisation, we're part of an ISO system, international standards, and we've gone one step further, and we're focusing on an environmental management system, which is an ISO 14001, internationally accredited. So there's a benchmark. So when we come to tourism, we need to understand there's got to be a benchmark. I need to trust. Life is about building trust. So when I go to an organisation and I see that it's 4-star graded, the grading council is consistent in terms of what needs to be done. The problem that we have is that the affordability, and this is where the grading council have been pretty good, because they actually allow opportunities for free grading, providing you meet certain criteria, and it's quite simple stuff. So the short answer is it important? Absolutely. We need to make sure that we give the offer of proof. So, I mean, you know, if you're going to go and stay somewhere and you're not sure, it's almost...
It creates...
I went to Zambia the other day and stayed in a 4-star AA Superior resort. So I knew the resort that I was going to was 100%. What I didn't know was where I was actually staying. So the location was a problem. So back to communication. To get to the resort was a mission. You know, I was going through what could have been perceived as a unsafe area. I went right through like in the middle of a location. Now, because I come from Africa, there was no problem. A tourist might be a little bit sort of skeptical about that. Now, what we've also seen on the Wild Coast is that there's been a capacity to create your own platforms, go onto any booking platform, and tourists arrive, and there's been negative results. Some of them have been quite drastic. So part of that is because no grading, and anybody can come, and this has been the history of the past, pay the chief, build an establishment, fall off society and land on the Wild Coast. We've seen that with some dodgy resorts, you know.
And just run it
the way it is. And there was also a bit of a problem there between the hotel establishments and the Wild Coast Holiday Association, because we were all paying money to an establishment. We were going out to world tourism markets. We were going out to promote things. And there was a level of trust that was being built. And then through time, we've just seen a whole lot of people just putting up places, offering accommodation, causing problems because of the lack of authenticity in terms of the offering. So there's a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes to work together with cottage owners and the hotels just to create an understanding that the Wild Coast is a one destination that all benefit from. It's not just the accommodation establishments, it's the communities, it's the B&Bs, it's the homestays, and everything else that goes with it. So it's important that we subscribe to some sort of order.
Standards.
Standards are very, very important.
Yes. And then your business in the Wild Coast. Tell me what happened.
Well, and this is going back to investment. So, I purchased the Ocean View Hotel at risk before COVID, on the understanding that there would be an opportunity to help change the narrative on the Wild Coast with regards to development. So we had a real estate business, and we'd been quite involved in seeing the old PTOs turned into title deeds. And the opportunity that I saw was to bring in partners so that we would create what I spoke about earlier on, a genuine level 1 BEE business with ownership, community development processes, and the capacity to actually make a difference on the Wild Coast. That was my heart. I spent 2 years dealing with the legalities of the lease that I bought. So the East Cape Development Corporation wrote their own lease. They took their own lease to court. They found their own lease to be unconstitutional. I want you to understand, listen to what I'm saying. They found their own lease to be unconstitutional. So I found myself in a situation where I paid money for a resort. I had 2 resorts that I'd bought. Government say it's unconstitutional. I said, well guys, hang on a minute. So where do I stand here? So they said, no, what do you want? So I had to go and then spend another 800,000 Rand to get a lease. So I had to go through a legal process. We had to get what we called a triple net lease, and that cost a lot of money. It cost me 800,000 Rand just to get my lease. I want you to understand the paradigm. So yeah, I've invested in a hotel. I then had to go through all of this red tape to get this lease sorted out. And through that process, we had such drama. I get billed for all the water for Coffee Bay, for the whole resort. All the water for the whole resort. They want me to pay 5 million Rand. I said, are you guys mad? We get this process result. That took months. Court cases. The municipality loses the court case. I've sold the hotel subsequently. They're still sending the same bill, you know. So the reason why I pulled out was I just couldn't carry on. I'm driving 4.5 hours from East London to Coffee Bay. The difficulty of doing business in a resort that doesn't have water. Half the time we don't have electricity. Half the time the roads are in a poor state. And we found ourselves consistently fighting with local authorities to get the job done. So the long and the short of it was, I had to make a decision. Am I prepared to fight the municipality, the government, and let them understand that we are trying to develop an ecosystem that's going to create jobs? You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been involved in business for, I don't know, my whole life. And we build things. We create jobs. We're in the job creation business. But when you're creating jobs at the expense of your health and your family, it becomes it's a problem. So my pitch to government was quite simple. I said to the guys, we'll get an organisation and consortium together that would like to buy all the hotels on the Wild Coast. We'll put them under one umbrella. They'll be owned with community involvement, with shareholding involvement that meets the government requirements. Everyone will be a level 1 BEE based company. There will be opportunities to remove tourism. We wanted to present and process this, and we just kept running as hard as we could into a brick wall. And the sad thing is that I do believe that the narrative will change. I do believe that the Wild Coast will be one of the best tourist destinations in the world. I believe that sincerely. But I mean, you've also got to look at basics. Where do you land a plane on the Wild Coast?
Yeah, it's a problem.
It's a problem, but there were airstrips. Now, I want to go back to my history. I grew up on the Wild Coast, as I said.
There was an airstrip there.
There was an airstrip at every single resort that functioned on the Wild Coast. Every single resort had an airstrip. The planes would come from Durban and from East London. Border Air used to run small charters with what they used to call the Islander planes. They were 10-seaters, and you couldn't get into a hotel on the Wild Coast in those days. So that was run by the Transkei Development Corporation in those days, which is now the ECDC, TDC used to be called. And those hotels were all collaborating. Every hotel had a CB radio. You remember those radios in those days? We didn't have cell phones and things like that. So it would be a case of there's a group of hikers coming through. get ready, they'll be there in 2 hours. So when the hikers got there, everybody was organized, but everybody sang off the same hymn sheet. That was the difference. And then, as things slowly progressed, the hotels were leased out by the ECDC, and it's been a difficult road. And if you look at the Wild Coast, and you must look at the narrative very carefully. Seagulls, also 30-bedroom hotel, battling to pay attention. Treneries, the same sort of thing. They get buses coming in there, and the road is fairly decent to Kocha. So you're still getting buses, but it's not at its potential. So both hotels they're eking a living. Wavecrest, they really battling. Wavecrest is a destination of note. You've got that river, you were there, you understand what's going on. Getting to Mcebisi now is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
But let's take it one step further.
Yeah, Mcebisi is a nightmare.
Mcebi's got a bridge. To me, it's iconic. Globally, it's an iconic bridge. The bridge is broken. Now, you would think that the government would have done something to just do something about fixing the bridge. And it's not a big deal. We're not talking about billions. We're talking probably 100 grand would make that bridge work again. Now, that's peanuts in terms of what tourism brings
to the
area. Now, carry on. You go to Kobin, the road to Kobin, it's been challenged. Beautiful resort. And the guys there have sweated. Keep going. You know, the Haven, try to get to the Haven. Now the management team at the Haven, they've given up because they just cannot carry on. So there's a problem, and there'll obviously be a challenge. They'll bring new management into the Haven. You go to Hole in the Wall. They've been trying to sell, First Resorts have been trying to sell Hole in the Wall for years and years and years. Why? Because they're not getting the occupancy. Why? Because there's so many challenges. Hole in the Wall as a resort, in my personal opinion, is world class. World class.
Too much.
But the thing is, why is it not running at full capacity? Because a lack of collaboration, a lack of intent, and if we just did the basics right, just get people through the Wild Coast. Just get them through. Have a couple of police stations in Butterworth, Arducho and Mthatha, so that when there's drama, tourists are actually sorted. Now,
sort it out quickly.
Quickly, not tomorrow, quickly. So the simplicity of dealing with these issues, you create land ownership that people can invest. Would you invest 100 million into something that you don't own and that the government could take away tomorrow?
No.
Never.
No. So it is safe to say that the Wild Coast at the moment and the way it is not a safe investment.
Absolutely not. Look at the guys who've got a safe investment. Go and have you been to Morgan Bay Hotel lately?
In a couple of years.
Go down there and have a chat to Richard. Go and speak to him. That's a third generation family run business. He reinvests 15 to 20 million every 5 years into his hotel. In making sure that he's consistent in the offering that he's giving to his guest. So you're getting guests coming down to Morgan Bay Hotel. They know exactly what they're going to get. Exactly. Why? Because it's processed. It's clear. They are specialists. Go to Mgazi River Bungalows. You're going to get the same experience. Go to Mboiki. You're going to get the same experience. Go to Crawford's. You're going to get the same experience. Go to Arena. You're going to get the same experience. Why? Because the guys own their land. They've invested and they keep investing. Now the other guys that are sitting on the Wild Coast are leased properties. So the guys, I mean, Wavecrest have put a lot of investment in and they've taken risks. They've got a long lease. But the reality is, if they were given the opportunity to own that land, it would be, you know what I like that word? Proper. So we need proper capacity to be able to do these things. And we've got to stop this nonsense about control and who's there. The government need to understand that we are part of a process of service delivery. And tourism is a job creation opportunity.
And it's service-based.
It's service-based.
Without service, it's all gone.
And you can't go to a Skora establishment and think that the guys are going to come back. You get one chance, eh?
One chance to do it.
You come down, you do it right, and they come back. What South Africa has done well is we've got people to Cape Town and we've got people to the Kruger National Park. We've done that well. People want to come back now. So let's take a walk on the wild side.
Let's spread them more.
Let's do it. So, but
them even more.
that's what we've got to do. We've got to look at, they call it the FIT industry, where the guys are self-propelled, they're hiring cars and they want to drive up and they want safe passage through a country. This is a global phenomenon. It's not a South African thing. But if we're not doing it properly, we've got a problem. Looking at time, I think we both...
Before your time runs out. Jemima.
Yes.
You want to tell me something about it?
About Jemima? My daughter or the business?
Yeah, the business.
Yeah, Jemimas is, again, it's another establishment. I think we opened that in about 2007, if I'm not mistaken. Around that, yeah. And the focus with Jemimas was really, we wanted to have a 4-star superior establishment that would give guests discerning opportunities just to come and have comfort. Part of that for me was in the tourism sector. When I looked at the hotel and I looked at COVID and all of those things, I decided that my tourism days are over. So I sold Jemimas as well. It ran thin. I just looked at the opportunities, and it goes back to the hospitality sector. You know, for me, I looked at Jemimas as an investment. At the time, we had 18 bedrooms and a conference facility, and post-COVID, we battled to fill the place, and I got a very, very good offer. A guy just came to me out the blue. It wasn't for sale, and I had a look at it. And again, it's back to the investment. The investment that I've made moving forward, because of the uncertainty of COVID and what that looked like, I had to make a decision. Would it be wiser for me to keep the establishment or to go and invest in something else? And I chose the latter. So it goes back to the B&B market as a market. The way of business has changed today. People are doing meetings on Teams and what's the other thing?
Teams, Zoom.
Yeah. So that has created quite a challenge, and you see now, it's not only here but globally, there's a lot of B&Bs for sale. I was very fortunate that I could sell. I got a great. There was a great opportunity that came out of that, and the guy that bought it from me is in the tourism space, and he had opportunities without even using my current client base, because for me it is important that Jemimas would carry on, and my daughter's Jemima, so that's why we named it, and it's still going. It's still run as Jemimas. It's running much better than it was when I was there, and I'm really happy with the team that have taken it over. So that's what I enjoy, seeing progression. You know, with me I've been in the hotel trade. My dad built the beach hotel in Kama, and when you look at that today, it's derelict. There's a piece of land that's been knocked down, and again that goes back to investment. So there was an investor that bought the hotel in Kama to develop a 5-star 150 bedroom facility. Because of red tape and ill health, so it's a combination of the two, they didn't invest. So now that prime spot in Kama is flattened.
It's gone.
And if you look at Kama as a tourist destination, they're battling to pay attention. And it's sad, because Kama and Morgan Bay were like an ecosystem that used to feed off one another.
They're like a sister and a brother, hand in glove.
Hand in glove. Now I'm going to give you a simple narrative here, and I don't want to be condescending towards the government, but I just want to take an opportunity to think. There was a substantial investment that was made in the mine, which was an old titanium mine above the hill at the Morgan Bay River. Now, I'm talking about a mine. I want you to understand what we're talking about. A mine that has got bush around it. And I'm not sure, you can go and research the investment, but it was a number. It was a big number. Then you have a prime real estate property that somebody owns, and they would probably accept 5 million for the property now. If they'd have taken that investment and put, I think it was 20 million or 30 million or 40 million, I'm not sure, into that, you would have had a fully functional resort overlooking the sea, creating job opportunities that would be full. Try and book into Morgan Bay Hotel. You're not going to get in, because they are running an organization that is oiled. So people go, they book, they come back next year. You're not going to get a booking in December. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
The same would have applied to Kamaf. Why? Because there's a road all the way down there. You're on the wild coast. You're there. Everything's there. Now, again, I just question the research and development that government put into wasting, and I'm going to use that word, wasting money on a conference facility at the mine. I mean, what for? What's happened? Let's measure the results rather. That money that was invested, how many people have gone and done a conference at the mine on top of the hill there? I can tell you now, there's no one that's gone.
Yeah.
So we need to look at results.
Yes.
And that's what really upsets me about the whole process. You know, we need to be very careful to be stewards. You know, to me the government, they're stewards of the money that belongs to the country. Don't waste it. It's quite simple.
They're supposed to push development more than anything.
Absolutely, but somebody made a decision to do that. How did they make the decision? Did they do the research? Did they walk 3 k's down the road to have a look at this piece of land that was available for development? Why did they do that? That's my, you know, I always ask, why? So we need to be aware. What are we aiming for as a tourism destination? Then why? Why are we aiming for that? So for me, that government department that made the decision to do that, I would have liked to ask them, why are you doing that? Once you've looked at the why, you must assess it very, very carefully to make sure that the why is actually real. Then you take responsibility. For me, the person that made the decision to invest into that mine should take responsibility. They must, young Julia says, pay back the money.
That's the way.
That's the way. But now probably nothing happens to that person. If I, in corporate business, go and spend 40 million or 20 million and it gets squandered, I'm not going to have a job at.
With no return.
No return.
No return.
No pension.
Like actually for me, I know that now our time is finishing. There's something that I want to do. I know it's going to be difficult for me to put it up. I want to do a tourism roundtable in September. So I still have time to plan for it. Tourism roundtable where government, the guys that have power in government, in our sphere, in tourism, and the people like you in that roundtable.
Why September?
September. I think the thing is, I believe that September is supposed to be the tourism month.
Yeah.
And it should be a way of starting this thing. If I want to start it properly, I need time to look after it. And then September would be like 9 months in a new year. So
my encouragement is to start the process long before that, and then have the right role players around there.
Yes.
And in that meeting, I would be bold. You know, 2 things that this year I'm standing on is be bold and grow deep. So we must be bold. We must understand that the tourism sector needs to know that the Wild Coast is the best kept secret in the world, but it needs to be unlocked. Mrs. DeLille needs to come, not one of her sidekicks. She needs to come and see, experience, understand and know what we're doing here.
Yes.
She must give some answers. What are you doing to invest on the Wild Coast? I think that's the question that must be belted down. What is government doing to invest on the Wild Coast? And the why is quite simple. The why is quite simple. There's opportunities par excellence.
A lot of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities. So I want to create that platform and allow that platform to be like a conduit to answer a lot of untapped questions. I know most of the things are so uncomfortable. That's why people don't want to talk about them. Like
I'm not uncomfortable to talk things, and that's the thing. I like to talk about hard conversations.
That's why I'm saying in that I would need you to be part of it, because in order for these things to be addressed, they need to be addressed without fear.
Yeah.
They need to be addressed without fear. If a development is supposed to happen, it needs to happen.
Yeah.
And if it does not happen, we need accountability.
Yeah.
End of story.
That's it. Simple as that.
Yes.
Accountability. Yeah.
Yes. Russ, thank you very much. Thank you very much. This was a good one.
Yeah.
This was a good one. So really, for that roundtable, I need you.
No problem. We'll make it happen. Good luck.